Hello and welcome to this webcast, which is part of a series that addresses practice for children with special educational needs and disabilities, abbreviated to SEND, in the early years. By early years, we mean any child who's covered by the Early Years Foundation Stage Framework, that is, from 0 to 5 years old. In this webcast, we will look at some of the key documents that relate to the early years and SEND. What do you know already? Are you already aware of any of the key documents that relate to SEND in the early years? Which documents are these? Do you know what they say? Everyone working within early years education needs to be aware of 3 key documents which set out roles and responsibilities with regard to SEND. The documents are the Statutory Framework for the Early Years Foundation Stage 2017, the Equality Act 2010, and the Special Educational Needs and Disability Code of Practice 0 to 25, 2015. This Code of Practice is guidance based on the Children and Families Act 2014. These 3 documents outline the statutory requirements in relation to young children with special educational needs and disabled children in the early years. This means that they set out the laws which all providers have to follow. The Early Years Foundation Stage Framework brings together 2 sets of requirements: the Learning and Development Requirements and the Safeguarding and Welfare Requirements. The EYFS framework is based on guiding principles which include equality of opportunity and anti-discriminatory practices, ensuring that every child is included and supported. The Early Years Foundation Stage Framework brings together 2 sets of requirements: the Learning and Development Requirements and the Safeguarding and Welfare Requirements. The EYFS framework is based on guiding principles which include equality of opportunity and anti-discriminatory practices, ensuring that every child is included and supported. The EYFS requires all providers to set out how they will identify and support children with special educational needs or a disability, how they will make this information available to parents, and how they will involve parents in identifying needs as part of the processes of reviewing each child's progress. The EYFS framework requires all practitioners to be aware of their responsibilities in identifying and supporting all children. The 4 themes of the EYFS framework provide a universal approach to learning and development for all children in the early years. The themes unique child, positive relationships, enabling environments, and the 4 areas of learning and development, combined with the characteristics of effective learning and teaching, provide a strong basis for high-quality teaching and learning and effective inclusive practice. Inclusive practice means practice which enables every child to be included. That is, no child is left out or denied the opportunities to take part in the same activities as all other children. It is a very important theme across all good practice for children with SEND. The requirements of the Equality Act 2010 sit alongside the requirements of the EYFS framework and the SEND Code of Practice, which we will cover shortly. The Equality Act and the resulting duties apply to all providers of early education and childcare, whether or not they receive government funding. One of the key responsibilities for early years providers is to make reasonable adjustments. This term means that settings should make any changes which are necessary to meet the needs of children with SEND, which would generally be considered reasonable. Reasonable adjustments may relate to procedures such as admittance and practices such as settling in and transitions. The adjustments may also relate to physical alterations, such as ramps for wheelchairs, and include the provision of auxiliary aids, for example walking frames, and services such as speech and language therapy. Providers have to think ahead and consider which adjustments they might need to make so that disabled children can take part and be included in all aspects of the setting's provision. In other words, you have to plan to meet these needs in advance. The duties apply to all aspects of provision, including mealtimes, trips, and so on. Can you now explain what reasonable adjustments are and give an example that you might see in your setting? The Special Educational Needs and Disability Code of Practice 0 to 25, 2015 is statutory guidance for organisations which work with children and young people. It is based on the Children and Families Act of 2014. All early years providers must have regard to the SEND Code of Practice if they receive funding from the local authority. This means all providers must take it into account when they are making decisions about young children. The Code of Practice sets out what is expected from all those involved in delivering services, including owners, managers, the SENCO, and all practitioners. The responsibility for the actual processes that a setting uses to identify and meet the needs of all children is referred to as the graduated approach. The graduated approach is a 4-part cycle of assess, plan, do, and review, through which earlier actions are reviewed and amended, leading to a growing understanding of the child's needs. For more information, see nasen's SEN Support and the Graduated Approach mini-guide, which is on our website. The Code requires early years practitioners to understand their role in identifying and responding to the needs of the individual children. It emphasises the role of every practitioner who should be supported by the setting's Special Educational Needs Coordinator, or SENCO. Every practitioner needs to be familiar with the graduated approach and use it to support their key children. You can find a webcast about the role of the SENCO in early years settings in this series. Think about how the graduated approach works in your setting and consider a child to whom it applies. If you would like more information and support in this area, you could have a look at the resources shown here. You will find the details of these on the supporting document to this webcast. Here are some thoughts to take away. The EYFS is based on the principle of inclusion. The Equality Act is law which ensures equal treatment for everyone. The SEND Code of Practice is statutory guidance. It recommends a graduated approach to meeting children's needs. Please download the supporting document to this webcast, which contains a transcript and some short reflection activities to enhance your learning.